Just a reminder that any thoughts, opinions, and points of views expressed during this podcast are those of the individual and not of the Grand Lodge, appendant body, or concordant body that individual may belong.
Hello, hello, hello. We're going to be saying a lot of things tonight that are high and holy. We're going to be talking to Doug Reece. He is a part of the new partnership that we have with Perfect Ashlar Publishing on Pen and Compass. It's our second season. We finally are about a year old, coming up on our 1 year anniversary. So we're excited to have Doug on here tonight. We've got Rodney, and then we may have some other podcast crew members drop in. Doug, how are you doing?
I am doing super. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get right into it and start talking to you. You are on fire. It seems like you're lately writing books and being a Masonic author and being you got other sides to your life too. You're not just one dimensional or two dimensional. You're multifaceted for sure. And we're going to dive into that, and we'll start talking about some books that you've written. And I think the interesting thing is some of these books are historical fiction. So you've taken passages in the Bible and some other source material, and you've thought about it like a movie or a TV series, some type of theatrical thing, and you have these historical fictions.
Actually, the one that you have up, The Song and the Swords, the story about Deborah. And Deborah was the only woman to run Israel. She was not named as a judge, but at the same point in time, she was not a king either, or a queen. She's the only woman to have total control over that. She was a called prophetess by God. And it was her responsibility, being called, to unite Israel again and bring them back into the fold so that they could go through and be freed.
So
Her
this is
story.
more of a looking at her in the Bible. This is
Correct.
an examination or analysis of
Correct.
who she
It's
was,
yeah,
and I'm assuming that you're kind of connecting that to modern day thought as well as
exactly.
ancient
Exactly.
Israelite Judaism.
Yeah, her leadership principles are in there, and it's not every day that you see a woman in that kind of position. Today we do, but back then, no, we didn't. And when you got to unite 12 tribes that have 12 distinct personalities, you got to be sharp. And that's what I try to bring out. How sharp was she? What were her leadership styles? What did she do? How did God call her? Things like that. So it's a
Awesome.
good book, and it's also an audio book.
And you
Awesome.
said you tie this into like modern times, you said as well, or
Yes,
okay.
yes. Whispers of the Prophets is we're going to be using that as a textbook. That is the 12 minor prophets of the Old Testament. What leadership did they bring to the table? How did they lead? What was their belief system? Um, what can we learn in modern day? How does that apply to us today? And so we're going to be using that as a textbook. That's about 350, 400 pages.
And that's in your day job.
That's my
Using
day
textbook.
job. Yeah.
Yeah, using a textbook. So, but
Yeah.
you've made this offering available to the public, and
Yep.
all these. We're going to get to kind of. It's going to. We got multiple segments here, folks, but we're going to get to kind of where can you find Doug's books and have him talk about that after he kind of goes through and shows you all the great things out there. So this is the same thing, right? This is kind of an
Yeah.
expose, an examination of who they were and how they connect in with the overall biblical story.
True. Without doing it verse by verse, we did it as a story of that prophet.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I think so. I think whenever you go back and you look at the books of the Old Testament, the books of the New Testament. I think the same thing happens here with these individual characters. When you group them together, it kind of helps you understand things at a higher level
Yeah.
from my study.
And you're absolutely right. You know, uh, let's assume you're going to teach one of these prophets in one of your Sunday school classes. That whole book can be gone through as a whole. It can be done individually. The I talk about those prophets, laid out their stories and who they were and so on in an identical format for all 12 of them. That way they can stand alone or they can be grouped together. And
Can you make a quick statement on how the knowledge of the ancient prophets could be advisable for the modern mindset?
each one of the prophets brought a specific prophecy into being, whether it was fulfilled or yet to be fulfilled. And each one of those was a call to repentance. Israel had drifted away, and just like we do in eschatology, or which is the fancy church word for end times prophecy, there's a prophecy in Matthew 24 and in Revelation that talks about the great falling away. Israel always was turning around and ignoring God. Their job was to call Israel back into the fold. And we as Christians today um, have a tendency to walk away from God. We have a tendency to ignore the signs. We have a tendency to wander off, like a little kid. And the prophets bring that back into context to where, oh, hey, he was chiding Israel for the same thing that I've been doing.
Very nice.
So maybe I
But you,
can
yeah.
straighten up my act.
Well, and I think anybody that's in any of the major world religions is going to fall away, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going to need that kind of come back, get centered, remember your teachings, move forward. We're all human, so
Oh, yeah, we are.
I
Nature.
think I think this book for me would be like, how like you have different maps, and whenever you were talking about this, Doug, I saw like the stories of the major kind of patriarchs, especially in the Old Testament, as like these interstate highways and these freeway systems and the big roads, that are like eight lanes wide. And I see these guys as the one lane and the two-lane roads, the back roads. And they're kind of you'd have to get like a really intricate, detailed map to see where all these things are going. And
Yeah,
but
these little guys brought you back to that 8-lane highway.
exactly, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, to finally get down to the Airbnb that you want to be at for the week of vacation, you had to follow these guys. And I think, from studies here and there, and different sermons and interactions with all of these, um, they all come back to almost what Solomon said though in Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no,
Bingo.
there's nothing new since Adam and Eve in the fall.
That's one of the most important verses because that brings the ancient knowledge to modern times. I mean, it was never outdated.
Yeah.
So you've written a
Go
couple of
ahead.
books about Barnabas, yeah. So
Barnabas, I have two about Barnabas. That one, the first one
which
was
one? I'm sorry, that one. I'll
no,
start
the
flipping back
next
and forth.
slide. Hit the next slide for me.
Okay, okay,
That one was the first book. That one was kind of an overview of who Barnabas was, what he was, and so on. Um, pointing out his friendships with Paul and with Mark and so on. And it was kind of just a general history book. And I wrote that one primarily to use in the Sunday school class, actually. And it gained some popularity and all of that. And then I had a couple of the people said, well, Doug, we really need to expand Barnabas. What did he actually give to the rest of the world? that prompted the other book, Barnabas and the Unsung Hero and His Legacy. Barnabas was not a disciple. Barnabas was an apostle. He was part of the 120 that were a part of that group that traveled with Christ. Barnabas was the teacher of the group. Barnabas was the guy that was in the background. He taught Paul. He taught, Marcus. He taught Timothy. He was the guy that was holding everything together in the background theologically. Well, what did he bring to us? When you read Barnabas, the unsung hero and his legacy, you're learning about church organization. You're learning about things that he brought in relationships, what he talked about, who he talked about, the vulnerability that he had, that all of the disciples had. And he brings all of that into play to where we as a modern church can look at Barnabas and go, well, he went through it. We can live through that if he's already done it. And he's kind of the example for modern churches today. How to be a Barnabas. There's a whole movement that's out there with the name Barnabas on it. A bunch of minutes, not a bunch, there's 3 or 4 that one of them is called the Barnabas Ministry and teaches you how to be in a background, how to support your pastor, how to support, the deacons in your church and so on. So, and that's his legacy. That's what he brought to the party. And so,
That's a very good point. I think a lot of times I have an extroverted type A personality, can't be quiet. I'm shocked I was that quiet that long. And
you and me both.
and I think sometimes as the Dougs of the world and the Jeffs of the world grew up, we had to learn how to value people of different personality types and different
Yes.
skill sets and different kind of just the way God made them. And I think whenever I read that, it's in the New Testament where it's even in the Old Testament. I mean, the organization, the laying out of like the encampment of Israel with Moses and Aaron, or whenever they were forming the early church, and they're like, not everybody's going to be Moses holding the staff up and running around getting in Pharaoh's face. Some people are going to be back here just carrying all the stuff from one place to the other, and some other people are going to be in charge. It takes a village. I know that's
exactly.
kind of
With that in
weaponized.
mind, with that in mind, who would you consider the Barnabas of the Masonic Lodge?
I mean, it can be that for you talking about for me. I mean, it could be. I try to be that way as a past master, especially, or a past presiding officer at the local level, or yeah. And whenever I'm in a group that I'm not the active leadership role. I try to be that myself. Just whatever I can do. Do we need to order new regalia for this invitational body? Great. I'll go look it all up online and bring back a proposal.
The actual, and you can look at the lodge having a couple of different types of Barnabas. You've got an old past master, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that's going to sit in the amen corner of the lodge room, and he's not going to say 8 words, even if his mouth was full of them. He's going to be the quiet one. He's going to be the one that's going to take aside the newly initiated members and say, hey, take a look at doing this and this and this. He's going to be the one that's going to kind of guide the new guys, and you don't have to tell him to do it, and he won't be flashy about it. He'll be in the background. Then you have the guys like Jeff, for example, that will, oh yeah, I'll do a support role in a heartbeat, get out there. And those are 2 different types of Barnabas. And when we get into a lodge setting, we see that probably more so at a Grand Lodge level than we do at the local lodge level, because the local lodge level, you're too close to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, in our York Rite bodies in Arlington, whenever we have the new guys come through, the candidates come through, and we're blessed to have a healthy amount of those. I always try to make sure, and I've even designed some handouts and some things for them to understand what they just went through and
Yeah,
what the value is of what they've joined, and make sure that they're not just kind of ignored. And I'm not saying that anybody would do that on purpose. Just sometimes people get into leadership roles and they're so just trying to get there themselves and get and stay in front of things. And for me, I come to them and I say, hey, did we get you a book? Did we get you the ritual book? Did we get you this? Do you know what to do here? Do you need help with whatever piece of regalia? Just whatever. And I love it because then you know where I'm going, Doug, and especially Rodney. I'm all about the ritual, all about symbolism, interpretation, and I'm always like inviting them into those conversations. Like, I love to talk about this. I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Well, I don't know anything. Yeah, you do. You've experienced it. You're a member of this group. You have value. You have an opinion and a point of view, and you're probably going to see something and think of something that it would have taken me another 80 years to do this, and you're going to help me shorten that time. And
exactly.
and if you're not doing that, and you're kind of going to lodge, and you're really proud that your picture's on a wall, or you get to wear this certain thing or whatever, I don't know if you're doing it wrong, but man, you can be so much more fulfilled and show kind of this love and hope to everybody around you. And then how are we going to get new officers if we turn away and kind of burn all of our new guys? How are we going to keep going and keep the chart on the wall and not everybody have to go back through 7 times?
Yeah.
I was gonna say Indiana has a mentorship program for new candidates in the Blue Lodge. Is there a mentorship there in Texas?
Everybody has one of those.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
not probably a
Missouri does
grand.
too.
Everybody has those, but how they're implemented and the spirit that they're implemented and the intentionality of how they're pursued passionately, ardently, zealously. Am I throwing out enough the right words for the York Rite? That they just kind of happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Depends on
just
the
like,
lodge.
you
Because
know.
I know there's a lot of lodges that don't even use the mentorship program.
Well, I
You're
mean,
exactly right. And um, it's because, well, we've never done it that way in the past, so why should we do that now?
Right.
but it's like filling up a 16 by 32 pool in your backyard. You stick the hose down in there, you turn it on. It's not going to happen right away.
Mm.
It's got to take time for that volume of things to lift up and to hit a certain level before you can turn on the pump.
Yeah, but their philosophy is, well, I've had that hose on 15 minutes and ain't done nothing.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah,
It depends on the candidate too, to
Yeah.
accept.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna keep
Now,
on going. So
yeah,
yeah. So
the
this one, it
topic,
looks really interesting, and it sounds like it's your love of fiction maybe meets eschatology and
bingo. Yeah.
biblical. Yeah.
That one started off as writing a story about what's going to happen, and it morphed into this love story, if you will. And so much so that one of the ladies that I ran this past said, Doug, you need to publish this sucker. This thing is awesome. And it's about what's going to happen at during the Great Tribulation, right before Christ comes back. And when he comes back, what happens? And it's a good read. It'll give you some idea of the persecution that's coming.
So also though, it's interesting that you're doing it with that kind of overtones, but it looks like just from the cover and reading stuff here that it's like you have this male and female characters kind of going through this in tandem, and so that's a little bit different maybe.
Yeah,
It's
they
a little
go
bit
through
more
it.
like a lot of the apocalyptic stuff that you would see on. TV, movies.
Yeah, they go through it in tandem, and then they fall in love while they're in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
That's a
Because they join up as a team.
I like that.
So sci-fi, apocalyptic love story, rom-com.
Well, sort of. I guess that's one way to put it. Yeah.
You started on the script yet?
The end times confusion crisis.
Yes, sir. Tell us a little bit about that.
Back in the 1800s, there was a guy by the name of Darby that decided, for whatever reason, that he was going to misinterpret three scriptures in the New Testament, First Thessalonians 4 and a couple of others, and say, well, we're going to have a secret meeting and we're not going to make the tribulation. We're going to be raptured out of here. It says so right here. He totally misinterpreted that entire section of scripture. In the process, he invented what is called feel-good Christianity. You know it today by the prosperity gospel. That ain't the gospel. It's not even close. And so what I've done is I have taken what scripture actually teaches and said, well, premillennialism teaches this. Where is that in scripture? Where is a pre-tribulation rapture in scripture? It ain't there. Christ never talks about it. It's not, John never talked about it in the book of Revelation. It talks about us being raptured up, if you will, and meeting Christ in the air at the seventh trumpet when he returns, not before.
So there is an actual rapture mentioned in the Bible.
There is, but it ain't when everybody thinks it's going to be. We're going to have to go through the tribulation, gentlemen, whether you like it or not.
That many times where everyone thinks Christians are going to be raptured up and then the tribulation, but there's a process. The tribulation, in my perspective, is a process we all have to go through.
Yes, it is. And when you take a look at the tribulation itself, we got some hard times coming. We have persecution that is just unbelievably, in my field, I hear about it all the time. Other religions are storming churches in other countries and killing every Christian in there. Families, pastors, you name it, they wiping out an entire church, and then they'll burn the church building down. And that's happening all over the world, and it's just beginning. We saw a touch of that with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's starting in the United States, and it's going to get worse. Well, End Times Confusion says we got to go through that as Christians, because and a couple of prophecies say that this has got to happen so that we can see whether the elect will be deceived or not.
So it's a test of faith.
Test of faith. Bingo. Even Job was tested in his faith. Paul was tested in his. That's why he had what he referred to in 2 Corinthians 12 as a thorn that was a messenger from Satan that was in his side or wherever it was physically located. To remind him, it was a test of faith. Do I stay with God and praise him, or do I bow down to this idiot that's going to lose the war? Read the last chapter of Revelation. We win if you keep your faith together. So, anyway, I know I've already gotten a lot of hate mail on that one.
So here's another. If you're interested in learning, here's another book that Doug wrote. That's very similar in viewpoint there.
Did we just miss out on the rapture? Wasn't the rapture the other day?
Yeah, apparently so. Hey, I was not informed, but it was supposed to be on the 25th, I guess. So, oh darn, they missed it again, right?
Yeah,
So
and you have a good history on that. It stems back to that one
James Darby. Yep. He's Anyway, Are You Rapture Ready is the predecessor to the one, the Rapture Confusion. And Rapture Ready kind of goes mind exploring, if you will, and faith exploring. Are you ready for what's being taught? Are you really ready in your relationship? If you're not ready, get ready. And it looks at the spiritual and the psychological things that you need to get squared around in your head. It's not a very thick book, but it gets to the point quickly.
And I think that's what a lot of us that are, I mean, we're talking a lot about spirituality and religion, but we all are those of us on here are Freemasons. And I think a lot of times whenever we engage in moving forward with that, like that type of membership, there we have some kind of spiritual awakening, religious awakening. I know myself, whenever I was in my late 20s and there was this thought of, I'm going to go do this, I went back and I read the Baptist Faith and Message that is aligned with the church that, the denomination that
Mhm.
I'm active in. I went back and I read the Bible as just a book and just all these different things. Studied, not kind of just following someone else's teaching, but for my own self. And I think that's something that I've seen. Like we talked about, I looked at your Facebook a lot, getting prepared for this, and I know that you're one of the advocates, just like I would be, and Rodney would be. Go find it out for yourself. Read it for yourself,
Bingo.
and we're talking about these things, and we've got a disclaimer on every one of these episodes, but the reason it's there is because nobody but you can tell you how to think, and that's what you need to
Bingo.
do. You need to go and
Every
serve yourself first with that, and then figure out what to do from there.
every class that I teach and every sermon that I preach on end times prophecy throughout that 30, 45-minute grouping there, I tell all of them, don't take my word for it. Go research it for yourself. If I'm wrong, let me know. Because I want to learn. I need to learn. We're in a we're training for reigning, according to Professor Douglas at Covington Theological Seminary. So, with that in mind, go search it out for yourself. If it fits your belief, deal with it. If it doesn't fit your belief, discard it. But it's there. All we're doing is giving you the signpost. So,
And it's very funny, and I think we usually talk about this on just about every episode. There's always a point in the conversation where, whether it be church or restaurants or food, whatever, there's so many things in our lives, and kind of worship and religion and practices, and it's like you've got to deal with that yourself, and
mhm.
you've got to make those choices yourself. And a lot of times people say, well, it's almost like you can't be. I'm trying to think of one of my favorite country singers in Texas says, well, there's no way you can be as a big cowboy as I am because your hat's not as big as mine, kind of mentality. And so, I think we do that with church or religious groups. I think we do that with our Masonic activities and things. And I just want, I'm a few years behind you, Doug, and hopefully I move and I'm around on this earth as long as you've gotten to experience things. And the more in the last 5 or 10 years, I just let me do what I like to do. I'm not doing anything illegal, not doing anything unethical in Freemasonry. Just let me enjoy the way I want to do it and be a part of the groups and active in the groups that I want to be there, and talk about the subjects that I want to. Don't kind of give me the Heisman and say, no, you got to be forced over there. So
Well,
Yeah, no.
it almost alludes to doing that, and especially the lectures of like the Master Mason degree, we're shown certain things, but we're not told what they are. We're told to research those things and dig into them, which alludes to what you're saying, Jeff. You need to go pursue those on
yeah,
your own.
yeah.
Hello. Yeah,
So
There's a
exactly.
guidepost, like Doug just said.
every now and then, Doug, we jump in and try to add, but
Yeah.
we want to hear what you've got to say.
The
Wisdom from the Word. This looks like it was an early on
It
book
was
for
an
you also.
early on. It was just a guideline for a group of people that wanted to just, hey, I got to pull some stuff out of scripture. Where do I start? And it's basically, hey, start here. Kind of gives you some moral guidance and inspiration, kind of thing. It's just a kind of a general ebook kind of thing to get you started in studying scripture, and hopefully you'll
Yeah.
keep it up.
It says here religious practice, literature, art, law, ethics. Oh, kind of the basis for Western society and culture.
Yeah.
So, and probably every culture around the world. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be on, but so empowering spiritual growth through the Beatitudes, the 8 Beatitudes.
Those are
Blessed
just,
are,
it's lessons of what the Beatitudes taught us.
yeah. And it said I didn't see you have joined the order Knights Templar Commandery, correct? I assume.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm a past commander.
so those I love the how this knowledge from the Bible, the New Testament, is interwoven with the symbolism and the teachings of the Order of Malta.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's
definitely.
amazing. Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's one of our goals, Doug. I try to come up to Missouri, you come down to Texas, and we sit through. I would love for you to come to my commandery, and we love to do the Order of Malta and the Order of Red Cross,
The
not just the Order of the Temple.
my first wife was from Grand Saline.
Very familiar with that. That's where also Chris Tomlin, by the way, the
Yep.
Christian music artist, is from. My mom,
And
my mom actually went to high school in Henderson,
oh
Texas,
really?
with his mom. They were friends.
Oh,
I
that's
never
awesome.
I never got to meet her or him, but yeah, that's a little trivia thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Small world.
can be.
Yeah.
So what? Grand Saline, Texas. So you spent a little bit of time in East Texas, I assume, around Tyler,
Yeah.
Longview.
Most of it's in East Texas. I went to my father-in-law was a past master at Grand Saline Lodge, and when we go down there, I'd go lodge with Jimmy. And
Yep.
all that. Y'all got some messed up ritual down there. And we gave you your charter. Y'all got some messed up ritual.
Well, I like to say I've been more than one Grand Lodge jurisdictions, and I really enjoy ours. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah.
And I
You
really
know,
feel at home in Mississippi and Louisiana. Those are the ones that Mississippi, I think, for the opening, and then Louisiana for the degree work. But everything else is kind of like,
have
okay,
you
y'all
have
y'all
you had
put
the
y'all put the pledge at the wrong time. You don't pledge
yeah,
to the state flag. Y'all are missing this, and so yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Have you been to the red degrees put on by the Valley of New
New
Orleans?
Orleans, New Orleans. Have not have
Oh,
a yeah. That's something. That's one of those time and
put that on
place.
a bucket list.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. I'm actually part of a lodge here that's esoteric oriented, and we're raising money to bring that degree team up here in Indiana.
yeah. They've
Oh,
they've gotten permission also sometimes, and they've brought it into Texas, like maybe Houston and things like that, and they do travel around and get special permission to do that. So you
oh
know,
yeah. Yeah, it
but
brings a whole brand new meaning to the third degree for you. It
yeah,
really does. When you see them do the third degree and how they want to do that third degree,
right.
it it'll go, really? It gives you a better idea of what Hiram Abiff might have gone through.
Yeah.
It's
Intriguing.
eye-opening. I think you'll like it.
So to come back to the Beatitudes, is there
Yeah.
anything on this that you would like to add?
No, we're good with that one. The prophecies in parallel was generated because I had a question about the Pope when he passed. There is and I don't know if you'd call him a prophet, whatever. His name is Saint Malachi. And Saint Malachi sat down in the early formation of the church as a visionary and wrote down every name of every pope and what they would be like. Pope Francis is the last pope, according to what he wrote. There would be one other pope who would see the destruction of the Catholic Church. Well, how does that compare to prophecy today? How does that compare to what we're looking at? And that's what prophecies in parallel attempts to solve is, okay, let's look at what he talked about in the Catholic Church and how does that apply to us today? What can we learn from St. Malachi? Does that fit scriptural context? Is that accurate? And that's, it's a short book, but it goes into a lot of history real quick. So that one's, if you're a history buff and a theologian, you'll like that one. So
church history.
Yeah, it's basically church history. The Historical Jesus was written by the guy that founded the seminary or the college that I now run. Dr. Jack Nelson was one of 4 manuscripts that he had written, the first 3 of which have been published. The Historical Jesus was looking at the history from his viewpoint and what evidence he found for that. Now, Jack and I were really good friends, and he left that unfinished manuscript on his computer. When Jack got really sick with a rare form of cancer and was passing away, we started up Wycliffe's School of Theology. Jack, right before he died, said, "You will find something on my computer, please finish it." That's the result of what he wanted. That is his book. All I did was go through, edit it, send it to my layout guy down in Oklahoma City. He laid it out internally for me. I did very, very little writing in that book. I just published it for him. That is Jack Nelson's book. And it goes through the historical evidence of Jesus from an amillennialist standpoint. It's really an interesting read. And it's got some cool pictures in there too. So
awesome.
It's a good book. I mean, I enjoyed putting it together for him and editing it. So it was great.
So,
the Ark resides in you.
So before you talk about this one, let's just say that I didn't know you had this, because I kind of saw some of the other books that you have, and he's got a ton of books, folks. Sorry. I kept scrolling down, which I loved it. And I kind of know him. We kind of know him from Perfect Ashlar Publishing and that exposure. And then he and I are just recently connected on Facebook. And I saw this though, and I was like, I have found one of my buddies now. Like someone that wants to talk about the art. Like, do you know what I taught on Thursday night in Sherman, Texas at the chapter and council meeting? I taught on the Ark of the Covenant. Or I didn't teach on anything. I led a discussion and facilitated a discussion in the chapter there, the Royal Arch chapter there. Love talking about this.
Let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh. I probably am going to get exposed.
If I can prove to you that the Ark now resides in you instead of in the third temple, would you believe me?
So
I would.
I was also thinking about Rodney as I was on this. Yeah, it's like,
I've
okay.
written similar things that alludes to the ark being within.
Yeah, so I think what I would stand upon is whenever we are, in my 50 something times of getting to experience Easter as in a Christian setting, that on Good Friday in the afternoon when the thunderstorms roll upon Golgotha, but then it's also reported, I can't remember in which gospel, that the Holy of Holies, basically the veil at the Holy of Holies was just rent or ripped from top to bottom in two.
Now, let me give you an idea of that veil. The two outer layers, the one on the inside and the one on the outside, okay? And you got this sandwich. Then there, these two pieces of material were as thick as canvas as we know it today. Okay, hugely thick material. Inside of that was other material layered with horsehair and all. This thing was 2 feet thick. Big
Yeah,
old
it,
thing.
it had to be an insulation blanket because of what was going
Bingo.
on behind the veil.
Exactly. I mean, so you got this huge, thick piece of curtain, if you will, that rips right down the middle. We couldn't do that today if we had the right equipment. We couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what did that signify? That veil's gone.
Yeah.
That separation between God and us is no longer there. If that's no longer there, and Christ made the comment, I will be with you always, even until the end of the age, where's the ark now residing since Christ is the ark?
The kingdom of heaven is within you.
Bingo. And that's what that book is about.
I'm
So
intrigued about that.
this is kind of interesting. We've had this podcast going on for about a year, and this is kind of, I guess, a little bit of a plug for our own podcast. I'm doing a separate series by myself. I'm hosting it by myself, and it's about half a dozen men that I totally respect. One of them is an author like you, but the rest of them go to church with me or are in ministry with me.
Sweet.
And so and they're just amazing. One of them is my mentor for 28 years in my church that I get to now, man, what a blessing. I get to teach with him, Rick Weintraub, in our Bible study, Doug. And I mean, I'm always walking about 15 feet off the ground whenever that's going on. And he tells me anything good. And then he tells me I could have done this better. And I'm like, I understand, Rick. I did the best I could with what I had to work with, me. But anyway, and I'm going to be calling that Holiness to the Lord is a separate series with inside of the Pen and Compass. Because we talk about all kinds of spirituality and different things, and talk about all kinds of different knowledge bases and practices and things. And I went to them and I said, some of the other guests on here, on some of the episodes, may not fit with your belief system. And they're like, we don't care, Jeff. We'd love to come on and talk about our beliefs. And I said, perfect. Wonderful. And that shows you a certain level of maturity. It shows you a certain level of kind of knowing yourself and being complete. Just like you, they have some of them have seminary degrees and so on and so forth. But I'm excited about that. So we'll see how those go. I've taken
that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
send me a link to that podcast.
Yeah, well, it's going to be the same YouTube channel. We're not going off and doing. It's going to be the same, just more episodes within the videos and the playlist. But it'll have its own separate playlist on our YouTube channel. So anyway, we'll get back to you, Doug. Because we really try to make these episodes, Doug, about you. Like whoever the guest is, we had our things, and we want to show that we're not just sitting over here going click, 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 and everything. But we really want to make it about you, and you're doing an awesome job. And thank you so much for your enthusiasm.
I got one quick question, Doug, and it kind of ties in with the the previous book that was up here. Do you have any thoughts or opinions on the internal laboratory within the body?
No, I have not had time to research any of that. I have been listening to various scientists who are proving that the cross is part of our DNA makeup when you look at a DNA map. Lysine within our body is arranged in a cross. I think it's called lysine. It's one of them scientific. I'm a theologian. It's one of them scientific things. And I have been looking at that from just a general knowledge standpoint. I don't know enough to really talk intelligently about it. So,
Discovery Channel 1 hour documentary type thing. Yeah.
yeah, and that's about it. That's,
Episode.
I haven't read any books on it. I haven't done, probably the kind of research that I should to be able to support some of my students. But hey, you can only read so much, right?
You can only be an expert in so many things.
That's it.
And I think that's what's so funny is sometimes I see men, women, human beings stand up and they act like they're all knowing.
Yeah.
And it
When
really, huh?
When
And I
in
think
my
about, go ahead. I think about Job whenever he said, whenever God asked him, well, when's the last time you made sure that the clouds stuck right there and all the water vapor formed to make that cloud shape?
Exactly. When I teach eschatology, I refer to especially when we talk about timelines and we talk about the wars that are coming, like the Psalm 83 war and the Outer Ring War and the 10-year war and so on. I refer to an author called Bill Salus. Bill Salus has spent his entire ministry career studying the Middle East, when the wars are going to happen, what's the political situation. I'm not I'm not an expert in that. I got to rely on guys like Bill. And the same thing applies in other areas of eschatology. You draw from subject matter experts to support what you want to believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like your various pieces of the larger puzzle.
Exactly. I mean, we're all part of a big puzzle anyway. But, Bill Salus has got this piece. I have this one. So and so has this one. And when you come together, well, hopefully we'll have a picture. So,
So this is a book, moving on to the Widow's Walk.
you might know that lady, Jeff. Her name is Jean Milton. Her husband was Jerry Milton. They were very active in the White Shrine, very active in the Order of the Amaranth at the supreme level. Well, in the White Shrine at the supreme level. They used to come down to Texas all the time, and all of that. Jerry passed away a couple of years ago. And it was one of those things that I had been counseling Jeannie, and we've been friends for God knows how long. And Jeannie says, well, I need to do something that not only will help me walk through this process, but maybe my story can help others. And we were talking about this while she was driving back from Bluebonnet Court, as a matter of fact. And that sparked an idea. So I wrote a rough draft of the Widow's Walk and sent it to her. Now the guy that I turn to for my inspiration in that's a guy by the name of Gary Rowe. And he is probably one of the best authorities on grief and how to overcome grief and all that in the spiritual standpoint. And so I wrote a rough draft based upon some outlines that Gary Rowe had in his book. She went through and added all of the personal stuff to that book. It's actually her story. I just edited it and helped her publish it. And it's a great, great book to help ladies walk through the death of a spouse.
Yeah. So,
It's a
yeah.
good.
and that is it's very Christian, it's very Jewish, and it's very Masonic, Freemason.
Exactly.
All three of those groups do something that maybe at least help them set themselves apart, maybe in a positive way. That we take care of widows and orphans, the innocent,
Hmm.
the ones that maybe aren't in the place of strength.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, there we are. Yep, that one. So Rings of Covenant. So, you see, you understand that?
David Whitlock, these are two fictional characters. David Whitlock inherits his grandfather's Masonic ring. When his grandfather gave it to him, his grandfather told him, "This is not a Masonic ring. It is a ring as a sign of our covenant. Take that as you will." So it gets stolen by another lodge member. At the time, they don't really realize, who took it. But anyway, so it gets stolen. He debates for a little while and says, "Well, I got to go to Grand Lodge because the Grand Lodge has archives and a library and so on and so forth. And maybe, just maybe, I can find out more about this ring and where it ended up and its background." He falls in love with the librarian, who's Rebecca Hayes. And she's hired by the Grand Lodge as the keeper of secrets and the librarian and so on for the Grand Lodge Library and Museum. And I'm going to leave that at that.
Cool. Sounds very almost
It's a
national.
great love story as well as a great mystery.
Sounds like stuff that I like to chill out and downtime with. National Treasure,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit of Angels, Demons, Da Vinci Code, and then throw in the Librarians off of TNT.
there you go.
Without, I don't know though if they go find any treasure or keep ancient relics or that could destroy the world from happening or whatever. But anyway, so we're gonna hit like talking about your books that you have published through Perfect Ashlar Publishing. I always have to slow down so that second word to make sure it comes out properly. And then we're going to
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about your process a little bit as an author, as a Freemason, and kind of some of that also, Doug, just to kind of on this particular segment before and
Okay.
the Masonic on Cruise. But kind of give a little heads up here. But anyway, so this is Chris Galloway's company. He's already done an episode with us, kind of launched the whole thing. We've hung out with your buddy Steve Harrison, who is connected also out of Missouri and going to be on the cruise with us. But one of the books that you've written, and I think this is the background from the cover for your camera shot there. This is the Architect's Compass. So tell us a little bit about that.
My tact in writing about Masonry extends from an esoteric side of things. 99% of the authors out there want to talk about the symbols, they want to talk about the history, and they want to relate it to lodge happenings. Well, the guy went through his initiation and he did this and he learned this and he did this and he learned that. Nobody writes about the psychological standpoint. What did he actually learn? How did he learn it? How did he handle the relationships lodge? How did he handle the growth that's required in lodge? How did he handle the rejection of individuals? It goes from the other side that we never talk about. It goes to the other side of, hey, I learned this today from my mentor, or I learned this today from the master of the lodge. And it would have nothing to do with masonry, but it had everything to do with how to be a mason. And
So,
that's what that book is about.
so this is a David Parker is a fictional character, I'm assuming.
Yes. And it's
So,
his journey through lodge, learning from the other side of the fence.
yeah, but
I don't
you
talk
pull
about
from
ritual in that book. I don't talk about symbols, and I don't talk about, signs and passes.
right.
Yeah.
So, but the whole concept is these are things that you've experienced over the years, or you've seen others experience, and it's kind of a fictionalized composite sketch of those things, and kind of giving people, especially those of us that maybe are early on our journey, or maybe have hit a brick wall, or stumbled and tripped over a pothole or a speed bump whenever they were going down a Masonic path, and they needed to kind of hit a reset button. That's what it sounds like to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What did you learn when you went through lodge? If you're concentrating on ritual, you missed a lot of it.
Yeah.
It almost seems like this book just uncovers the true purpose of the initiation.
Bingo. It really does.
Well, cool.
It really does.
We've got like your lessons from the craft.
That was the first one.
Yeah. So
I was recommended to Chris by a student of mine, no less, who, and I don't know how he come across Chris's name, but he said, Doug, if you need a publisher, call Chris. And so I sent him an email. We swapped emails back and forth. That was my first book. Every article or every story in that book was published in the Missouri Freemason magazine.
got it.
And it's, why do we say our ritual? What is Masonic charity? They're all little stories or little teachings of different portions of the ritual. And that was the first one. I've got version 2 that Chris will get to publish, probably be done in about 8 months.
So this is like
This is volume 1. I got volume 2 in the works.
and this is like the audio version of it, I guess.
So, and then the lessons from the Rite of Adoption.
Okay, that's different. Okay, this is a different book.
It is a different book.
Yeah.
Is back in the 1800s, when the Order of the Eastern Star was formed, they did 3 bodies at one time. You know how they are. I know you know how the York Rite's set up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When Rob McCoy and that group set up the Order of the Eastern Star, they instituted the Order of the Amaranth and the Queen of the South. They were all 3 separate degrees, and they brought them into one fold. Okay. The Order of the Eastern Star was the first degree of the 3, or what you and I would classify as chapter. The Queen of the South was the second degree, or what you and I would consider council. And the Order of the Amaranth is the 3rd degree, or what you and I would consider commandery. The Order of the Amaranth is very formal. The ladies wear formals, white gloves, the men carry swords. In certain ceremonies, would remind you very much of commandery, the way that it's structured. Well, this is lessons. What does the Order of the Eastern Star teach? They can have 5 heroines. What do those 5 heroines teach? They have the certain other things that are in their ritual. What does that teach? Queen of the South. What is that in its actuality? Who has jurisdiction over Queen of the South? Same thing with the Order of the Amaranth. And I just pulled, the general teachings of each one of those bodies and put them together in one volume called The Rite of Adoption, because that's what they started out to be. Unlike the York Rite, who, when they split, decided to hang together. When the three bodies that made up the rite of adoption decided to split, egos got in the way and they didn't hang together, which they should have. But hindsight's 2020, right? So, and that's what that one's about.
So
I
it's kind
would
of
give
interesting.
that book, yeah, I would give that book to any lady walking the street if she wants to learn about Amaranth and what they teach, or the Eastern Star and what they teach, and yeah, let your wives read it. It's a great book. Give them a good background.
But I think there's also value for us on the male side
Yeah.
because I mean, I
The
don't know how much the two of you. Well, within like the allied Masonic degrees, the same stories are maybe employed with Ruth and Boaz in the order of Secret Monitor because it's dealing with
Mhm.
Shepherd Boy David and basically his family and his lineage in a practical sense with Ruth and Boaz, and then also you have I'm blanking on her name, the heroine of Jericho. Help me out, Doug. She's part of the Eastern Star also, right?
No,
She's
that's
not
Rahab.
Rahab. She's not. Okay,
No.
that's in the and that's all. And this is all over websites, but that's
Yeah.
the biblical backstory. The hours
Rahab's
and days before the conquering and
of
conquest of
Jericho.
Jericho by
Yeah.
Joshua and
I've
Caleb.
got I've got a book that's in the works right now called The Scarlet Mystery, and it's going to be Rahab's story.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I got a little. I was thinking that she was in there.
No, you
She's not
have
Eastern
the
Star.
first star point is Ada, who's in Judges 9. Uh, Ada was Emelech's daughter, and he was commander that fought the first war in Judges. The second star point is Ruth, and that's the story of Ruth and Boaz and Naomi. The third star point is Esther, and you can read about her in the book of Esther. You can read about Ruth in the book of Ruth. And then Martha is the fourth star point, and that was Lazarus's sister along with Mary, and she's the fourth star point. The fifth is Electa, and I will let you read Lessons from the Rite of Adoption to learn who Electa is.
Cool.
Electa is not mentioned in scripture, but Electa was a very influential person in the time of Christ. Finding female martyrs in history is difficult at best. There are only 4 in that time period. And Electa, you need to read the book and you'll find out who Electa is. And I do talks on who Electa is. And you just, when the ladies look and you explain who she is, their eyes get as big as saucers. Like, we never knew. Our ritual doesn't go into that, and so it's,
There's a lot of that going around, Doug.
oh
Our
yeah,
ritual doesn't go in that depth, and people they'll say something. I'm like, well, this is not 17 or 1800 something. You're not going to sit through a 9-hour initiation in one day.
yeah,
Maybe
no,
you will for different groups, but we can't give you it all at one time. It wouldn't go anywhere.
yeah,
Modern.
that's right. You only retain 6% anyway. So
So the stars reflection. This is also similar to your other like
the
your
star's reflection is the Eastern Star version of the architect's compass.
right
It's the
where
easiest way to explain it.
yeah where a fictional character is engaging experience and
Yeah,
things that are
going through the
related.
line in Eastern Star and what she learn, so on and so forth.
All right.
That's good to know.
So
I was just talking to a friend that his wife's going to join the Eastern Star soon, so I might have to recommend this book to him.
Yeah, they're available on Amazon or Books by at my name.
we're gonna get what we're gonna show. That's one of the last slides here, But anyway, I really wanted to talk to you about, you've kind of alluded to it here and there, but how would you say, what do you feel like is your strength as a Masonic author and kind of in your publishing that you're doing also?
My Stonecutter Ministries was a ministry that I started eons ago. The tagline for that is teaching Masons how to see God in the Masonic ritual.
I got that down here somewhere. So
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
it's there it is. There it is.
I'm going to load and I'm loading this up. Where is Christ mentioned in the Masonic Blue Lodge degrees? Signpost is all over it.
Like flat out mentioned or alluded to.
Either one, however you want to look at it.
Some say that Hiram Abiff can be compared to Christ.
Nope, Hiram Abiff was an actual character.
Yeah. So I would say somewhere in that point within the circle, especially whenever you show the two patron saints, Saint John
The
the
evangelist of
Baptist,
St. John the Baptist. Yeah.
and I think maybe that point they're in between them. One is announcing why do we have these two saints that are New Testament saints biblically? Everything else is Jewish, Old Testament, and Doug's really weird. I was thinking about this today during worship service, but this is a Sunday when we're doing this. A Sunday evening, by the way. Those of you watching this and that aren't on this Zoom meeting with us, but that's literally something I was like, I got to tag that because I need to talk about that in a commandery setting so I can really blaze off on that. But for me, that's where it's at. There's a few other places, but you're talking about in the first 3 degrees.
First 3 degrees only.
Yeah, yeah, and so
I'll even arrow it down for you. It's in the 3rd degree. He is referred to in the 3rd degree in the prayer that they say at the gravesite.
Okay.
How were you raised? By what grip?
got it. Okay, yeah, no, that's there too.
The Lion of Judah right there.
Bingo. Who is referred to as a lion of the tribe of Judah?
Exactly.
See, only one person can be. And that's what his father, that's what John referred to him as in Revelation. It was the lion of the tribe of Judah.
That goes back into even Egyptian mythos. The cult of Osiris, the high priest would wear a lion's mask, and it's the same symbolism.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
So
And that's probably my strength because I want to approach the ritual. There are so many signposts in our ritual. You want to blow somebody's mind next time you get out of Salt Lake City, go through a tour. If you know your ritual and you know the middle chamber lecture, memorize the beehive portion of the middle chamber lecture or the 3rd degree lecture, depending upon what jurisdiction you're in. It talks about being an emblem of industry, right? If you know that paragraph, Joseph Smith was a Mason, right? You go to the big temple in Salt Lake City and you got a beehive out in the middle of the hallway. Stand there and start reciting that and see how bad you freak people out. It is awesome.
So it's also on your average on most of the temples also.
Yeah.
LDS temples in
Only the elect ones should know that knowledge.
well, above it,
Every
it has,
Mason in the country knows about it. I mean, come on.
it has holiness to the Lord above it.
Yeah.
By the way, usually.
Yeah, where do we see that at?
Exactly. Yep.
That's a York right thing.
Once lost, now found. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's see here. What kind of going back? What made you like write the books, or did you kind of start out as maybe Rodney and I have started out, and you did presentations to your local group and small groups of Masons and things like that? I mean, but you also have a background in um, seminary in theology and leading Christian groups. So
I was
on the Masonic side, where did it really kind of start for you?
I was in DMLA. My Masonic career starts way back then. So um, writing Masonically started when I was teaching 30 years ago. I was teaching home groups, end times prophecy. And the more I taught and the more you branched out into other areas to teach, the more I remember that in the ritual. I remember that as one of the lessons, or certain things started to gel up. And I've always had, I mean, I have a God-given gift to be able to write. And I laid that down for a lot of years and just recently picked it back up, prayed about it, said I'd like to have that ministry restored. And bull, man, if you ever lose a ministry and you pray to have it restored, be prepared because it's gonna come back a lot bigger than what you thought you knew. And so he brings it back, which spurred it on. And it started when I wrote my favorite emblem is the eagle, and my favorite verse is Isaiah 40:31. And a guy that was a friend of mine sat down at his kitchen table and painted an eagle on a rock and gave it to me. I sat down under the leading of the Holy Spirit and went through. He sits at a table, too weak to support a big family, but yet strong enough to do the artwork God's called him to do, covered with newspaper. And I described this guy's kitchen and how he and what his thought process was. And that was just the Holy Spirit leading me through that process to write it. And I gave it to him. And he just sat there and cried. Like, how did he know? How did he know? And I've done that all my life. I've been able to just sit down and write stuff and never took it seriously until I had the time to do it now. So
Sounds like a familiar story, maybe
it is.
on
It is.
on on this side of that camera.
Yeah, exactly. And I
So,
mean,
yeah.
life happens and then we decide that, well, maybe I need to come back, right?
So let me go back up here. So you were contacted and said, "Hey, we'd like for you to come on the Masonicon cruise."
Crew. Chris and I had talked about who our feature speaker was for a lot of years, or not a lot of years, but 3 or 4 phone calls anyway, while we were doing what were we putting together? The Architect's Compass. And he called me up, he explained the cruise, and I said, well, you need to call Steve Harrison if you want a featured speaker. Now, Steve Harrison and I go way back. We were co-editors of the Masonic magazine for the Grand Lodge for probably 10 years. I mean, and that, all of those articles that were in that are generated, lessons from the craft. But anyway, and I said, here's the lectures that Steve gives, and here's the books that he's written. And so he called Steve up and they worked it out. And Steve, you will enjoy Steve.
Yeah, we've already gotten a chance to interview him on online, and yeah,
Oh
and
man, Steve's
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
And he calls me up as his what's he call me? His theology reference material or something to that nature. He says, "Where do I find this in the Bible? And how do I explain this? And where do I find that?" So
Well, we forgot to get you the memo. Rodney and I just we really didn't talk about it, Doug. But we're wearing kind of Hawaiian cruise, like the shirts that you would wear, especially the first day, and we're both wearing that. It's like hilarious whenever we get on camera tonight. So
yeah,
uh,
I didn't get the memo. I should have borrowed one of my sons.
I apologize. So So what are your thoughts about this opportunity? It's a little bit different wrinkle on a Masonic gathering, educational.
Actually, I think it's an awesome idea. It Masonic Week that's in Washington, D.C. is a bunch of Masons getting together. Grand Lodge is a bunch of Masons getting together. In most of your national, even on Masonic cons, there's very little put together that authors only can get together and share ideas. And I think this cruise will bolster that. Hopefully, out of this cruise, it will grow for next year. Hopefully, out of this cruise, we will begin to cultivate other Masonic authors with ideas that have not been put down on paper yet.
Funny how that happens, right, Rodney? Funny how like you get 6 or 7 people together in San Antonio back in June, and man, it's already gotten supersonic.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this cruise can be a launching pad to generate more Masonic authors.
So have you've never got to hang out with Chris Williams from San Antonio?
No, never have.
Yeah, and Adam Sanchez. These are all the Texas guys that are coming, and so yeah, it's going to be really cool and amazing. I've got some of the equipment that I'm using, technology that I'm using right here. I'm going to bring my laptop and external microphone, Doug, so we can pick up. And we're going to try to have like maybe an episode, a live, scary episode. I need to find a camera, probably external camera, maybe. But I'm going to bring that on, and maybe either that Sunday whenever we're doing all the presentations, or maybe the day back, we can find some time and record just kind of what we thought about the deal, and just get a chance to hang out, kind of one of those roundtable type discussions.
Oh yeah, those are fun. Yeah.
So we'll probably, I need to talk anyway. I don't want to plan online, but anyway, we'll work on that. So, what's your topic going to be for
writing Masonic esoteric with artificial intelligence, its pros and cons?
So I'm going to be doing my a variation of my symbolism amplified, interpreting Masonic or interpreting symbolism methodology, and kind of getting people challenged in thinking about that if they don't already kind of do it naturally, like a couple of us do. Well, that's kind of where I wanted to break this part of the recording. And we're going to take a quick break and come back after this. Part 2, we're going to talk more to Doug about a few more things, and get to know him a little bit more personally. So we'll catch you right after this. See you in part 2.